You're looking at the Great Wall of China, a wonder of the world, a symbol of strength and endurance. You're wrong. This wall is a scar. It's a monument built by a megalomaniac so consumed by his own ego that he decided the only way to secure his legacy was to murder the past. Now look at this, the Terracotta Army, thousands of silent stone soldiers guarding a tomb. But the real secret isn't what they were protecting. It's what their master destroyed. This is the story of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. And this isn't the history they taught you in school. This is the story of a man who didn't just execute his enemies, he executed ideas. He didn't just burn villages, he burned books by the thousand. He is the only tyrant in history whose goal wasn't just to rule the world, but to become its new beginning. And once you understand the terrifying psychological reason why he did it, you will never look at history the same way again. First, you need to understand the sheer scale of his brutality. Before him, the land was a patchwork of warring states that had been locked in a bloody 200-year-long death match. Qin Shi Huang ended it. But he didn't unite them with diplomacy. He drowned them in blood. He conquered all his rivals, slaughtered millions, and forged a nation in the fires of absolute, uncompromising terror. Legalism, his philosophy, was simple: obey or die. Criticize, and your entire family dies with you. But conquering millions of people wasn't enough. His real enemy, the one that kept him up at night, was what was inside their heads: thoughts, memories, history. He was pathologically obsessed with the idea that scholars reading the old books might compare him to the tyrants of the past. His ego, more fragile than a house of cards, couldn't handle the criticism. So he came up with a final, horrifying solution. If the past is a threat, you kill it. This is where it gets truly sick. In 213 BC, the emperor, advised by his ruthless chancellor Li Si, issued an edict that would change the world. All history books from the previous kingdoms were to be gathered and burned in massive state-sanctioned bonfires. All works of philosophy, poetry, and art that didn't explicitly praise his regime were to be hunted down and turned to ash. Think about what this means. This was a man waging war on human memory itself. He wanted the timeline of all existence to begin with him. Under his new law, anyone caught even discussing the old books in private would be publicly executed. Anyone caught owning a forbidden text would be killed, along with their entire family for 3 generations. The books were burning, and the minds that held their knowledge were next. But wait, it gets so much worse. Burning the books wasn't enough. You can burn paper, but the ideas remain in the minds of those who read them. The emperor knew this. A year later, his spies reported that a group of over 460 scholars were defying his orders, preserving the old knowledge in secret. His response was not a trial. It was not imprisonment. He had them all rounded up and marched to a massive pit dug near his capital city. He had them buried alive. Let that sink in. The most brilliant minds of his generation, their desperate screams muffled by the shovelfuls of dirt as they were systematically erased from the world. He was literally burying the past. And here is that psychological pattern I promised you. Why? Why would a man with absolute power, the master of the known world, be so terrified of a few old books and the scholars who read them? The answer is the key to understanding all tyrants. His war on the past was fueled by a pathological fear of the future, his own death. This man who tried to control all of history was petrified by his own mortality. He became obsessed, fanatically obsessed, with finding the elixir of life. He sent a fleet of ships carrying thousands of young men and women into the Eastern Sea to find the mythical island of the immortals. They never returned. He employed an army of alchemists and sorcerers who whispered promises of eternal life. They told him the key was a magical substance, mercury. So he began consuming it. Every single day he would swallow pills of pure mercury, convinced they were transforming him into a god, making him immune to the decay that claims all men. The man who was erasing the past was actively, willingly poisoning himself in a desperate attempt to control his future. And here is the ultimate cosmic irony. In 210 BC, while on a tour of his kingdom, the great emperor Qin Shi Huang, the unifier, the wall builder, the man who burned history and buried scholars, died suddenly. He was only 49 years old. The cause of death? Systemic mercury poisoning. The very elixir of immortality he so desperately craved had rotted his organs and destroyed his nervous system from the inside out. His corpse began to rot so quickly in the summer heat that his servants had to fill his carriage with salted fish to mask the horrific stench from his own entourage. He tried to erase history, but in the end, his own biology, his own mortality, erased him. His grand dynasty, which he boasted would last for 10,000 generations, collapsed into a bloody civil war just 3 years after his death. His desperate attempt to control everything created a void that consumed his entire legacy. He is the tyrant who tried to erase himself from the context of history, only to become its most terrifying cautionary tale. That absolute power doesn't just corrupt the soul, it creates a paranoia so profound that it destroys the very reality it seeks to control. If this story of a man who tried to murder the past made you realize that the world's greatest monuments are often built on its darkest secrets, then make sure you subscribe, because the stories written in stone are nothing compared to the ones buried beneath them.